Hi guys, welcome to our second video. I'm going to give you a 1-minute question. I want you to write down 3 things that you remember. Just whatever's on the top of your head, write it down. 3 things. I'll give you a couple minutes. Okay, I think you've had enough time, so let us continue. So we're going to learn about 2 different types of memory, and you're going to learn this really well because you're going to end up with a pretty short homework assignment by the end of this lesson. So we have explicit and implicit memories, and we're going to learn later that they're processed differently in the brain. So to start off with, we have explicit memories. Another name for that is declarative memories. And these are facts and experiences that we can consciously know and recall. A way that I like to remember is declarative means that you need to declare them. So all explicit memories need to have language for you both to make the memory and to experience the memory. So, and it requires effortful processing, both to form the memories and to use them. And unfortunately, most of what we learn in school is explicit, and so it does require effort. So studying, repetition, space practice, actively engaging with the information, everything that I've already told you that you need to do in order to increase the chances that you're going to have a long-term memory. So now let's look on the other side here and let's learn about implicit memories. Something that's implicit is there, but it's not stated. So these memories don't require us to be fully consciously aware, both in forming them and in using the memories. So we don't need to declare or talk about them. They're formed automatically without our awareness and without the necessity of information being processed in our working memory. Now I'm going to give you a warning. The very last slide that we're going to look at is going to have these same 2 concepts, but it's going to be flip-flopped, and implicit is going to be on the left side and declarative, explicit is going to be on the right side. So because we tend to remember where things are automatically, you might form an association between explicit and the left side, implicit and the right side, and then I'm going to go and change that up on you. So just remember when we get to this slide where that's going to turn into a homework assignment, just be aware that it's flip-flopped. Automatic processing. Some experiences go directly into our long-term implicit memory. So this is basically going right from sensory into long-term. Examples would be procedures and skills, things that you know how to do automatically without thinking, riding a bike, tying your shoes, as well as well-practiced knowledge such as word meanings. So let me give you some examples. Procedural memory. For example, driving a car. Now, when you first learn to drive a car, and while you're still a beginner, yes, it requires effort. So originally, you're learning and processing through explicit. But after you've done it long enough, that it becomes automatic, it becomes an implicit memory. So driving a car, I'm going to give you a real life example. I was leaving work one night when I was managing the restaurant in San Diego, and I was driving home, and I was very preoccupied thinking about my master's research project. And suddenly I became aware that there were diamond signs to my left, and with a jolt, I go, wait a minute, there's no diamond signs on my way to Alpine. So Alpine is 35 miles east of San Diego in the high desert. That's where I lived. So it was like, OMG, I'm halfway to LA. Well, not quite. I was about to Escondido. So I immediately turned around and drove back to San Diego, another 35 miles, drove up to Alpine, 35 miles, which made my commute close to 100 miles that night. However, I was completely safe because I had driven so many times that I could do it automatically. You know, I could see, I could hear, I could pass, I could put the brake on, etc., etc. Another example of a cognitive procedure would be reading. I'm sure that you've experienced reading, and maybe you've read a few pages and all of a sudden you realize that you were thinking about something else and you have no idea what you just read. So that's another example. By the time you're in fourth grade, you're starting to read automatically. And so by the time, we've done a lot of reading, anything that we do over and over, so it becomes a well-practiced skill, becomes automatic. So another example here, it says well-practiced knowledge, such as word meanings. So any words that you know really, really well, you don't have to think about what they mean, but you can extract the meaning to help you. And any words that you know to automaticity, that's not going to take up time and space in your short-term memory. So that allows you to, for example, if you're answering a multiple choice question and you need to, and you know the meaning of every word in the question, you don't have to be taking up short-term memory space trying to remember what all these other words mean. You know it automatically, so all you have to do is evaluate the question and the answer choices. And that is the great vocabulary advantage that people that have large vocabularies seem to do better in school, especially with testing. Alrighty, so let's go to conditioned associations. When you form a conditioned association, let's say that you have a bad experience with a particular type of animal, say like a dog. Maybe you got bit by a dog when you're a child, and now for the rest of your life, whenever you see a dog, you have anxiety and you avoid them. Now, it could be that it's not even something that you think about anymore or really remember. You just happen to know that when you're around dogs, you're anxious. And this is just an automatic response, yet it is based on a memory, but a memory that is implicit. So you don't need to consciously remind yourself that you have a bad experience with dogs so that you need to feel anxious. It just happens automatically. Then we have information about space, such as where things are around you in space. So that would be contained in your cognitive maps that are automatically formed. And we've talked about those before. And lastly, well, actually not quite lastly, so information about time, such as retracing a sequence of events. For example, let's say that you get home and you realize that you left your favorite hat somewhere at school. You're able to sit there and retrace all your steps, and you haven't had to have rehearsed every place that you were all day over and over. It was stored automatically and it is now in your implicit memory. So you can retrace your steps. You can think, oh, okay, when I got off the bus, I hung out with my friends, and then I went to my classes. At lunch, we sat over in the hallway in the 400 wing or whatever, and hopefully you'll have a good idea about where you might have left your hat. The last one is frequency. So for example, if you go home and your mom or your dad says, oh, what did you eat today, honey? You might go, well, gosh, let's see. I ate some stuff on the bus. Then after I got to school, then I snacked in second period. Then I skipped lunch, but I snuck food out in Miss Nathanson's class in fourth period. And then we were able to get good stuff after school. And you didn't have to rehearse that all day for you to remember. There it was in your implicit memory. Now, this is the chart that you're going to use for your homework assignment. This is also the chart that I warned you. Now we're going to see the implicit memories on the left side and the explicit memories on the right side, okay? So you now have to associate implicit with the left side and explicit with the right side. So we have our implicit automatically formed memories, and we can see that they're non-declarative, they don't require conscious recall, and they're processed in the cerebellum. So let's start with space-time frequency. I gave you an example already, which would be, oh no, I didn't. This is a new example. If I asked you right now, what did you eat last night? You're going to probably be able to remember that, even maybe for the last few nights before that information no longer becomes important. So that would be an example of something that you know automatically based on something that you did or a place that you were within the last few days. The next one would be a motor or a cognitive skill. I gave you an example, driving a car or reading. And then we have classical conditioning. So anything that you avoid or makes you anxious, or maybe things that you have, good associations with, and you, oh yeah, I like this park. I had such a good time here when I was a kid. All of those are classical conditioned implicit memories. Now we're going to go over to the explicit, those that require effortful processing. And we also call those declarative. Not only did you have to use effort to put them into long-term memory, but you have to use effort to pull them out. Well, I should say, if you know them really well, you just have to use conscious recall and language. These types of memories are processed by the hippocampus and involve your frontal lobes. So we see facts and general knowledge. What's an example of a fact? For example, MedHigh's address is a fact. We can verify that. What about general knowledge? General knowledge, well, MedHigh is a fabulous school to go to if you're interested in a medical career. That would be an example of just general knowledge. So now we're going to go to personally experienced events. Another word for these is episodic memories. And I gave you an example already when I told you about my memory of driving home from work in San Diego. I had to use language to convey that to you. And so now what is your short and hopefully fun, or at least fairly short, but powerful homework assignment? I would like you to give an example for each of the 5 memories at the bottom. So the 3 for automatic and the 2 for effortful. Now, how are you going to do this? You could make a video. You could, in your video, like a TikTok, give examples of a memory that you have of space-time or frequency, etc., etc. And you have to do all 5. Or maybe you want to interview a family member or somebody that you're not practicing social distancing from. You could interview them. That would be a lot of fun. Or if you just want to get it over and done with real quick and you're the type that just likes to write something down, just go into the submittal box that I'm going to put on Blackboard for you, and you can number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, write automatic, or better yet, I would like you to write implicit memory, space-time frequency, and then your example. Number 2 would be implicit memory, motor cognitive skill, and then your example, and so on. So I think that's just about it. I'm going to review this and see if it's okay, and then I'm going to put the assignment in Blackboard. Alrighty, you will be hearing from me tomorrow.